Mavidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Supreme Being protect us both, the teacher and the disciple, by revealing to us the true nature of knowledge. May the Supreme Being protect us both, the teacher and the disciple, by revealing to us the application of that knowledge. May we both strive together for the acquisition of knowledge. May the knowledge and wisdom that we acquire be effective and illuminative. May there be no dissension or disharmony between us. Om peace.
Vivekanand ji, आप online हैं?
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Nitapaharine. Salutations to Swami Vivekananda, who is the embodiment of Satchit Ananda and who is the king of renouncers and who is the remover of all the miseries of the world.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Historic pleasure and privilege for us. This happens to be the 93rd session on education pe charcha. You can well ascertain from our voice the sort of thrill in our voice, because we are very much into 93rd session of education pe charcha. You all would appreciate education pe charcha is synonymous with educating the nation. My dear viewer, this is Vivekanand, an author, academician and a public intellectual. Of course, the convener of education pe charcha, and education pe charcha is conducted under the aegis of this tea talks, which is spearheaded by Sri Pramodji, who happens to be a valued partner. My dear viewers, our excitement and enthusiasm, knows no limits today, because we are today
Sir, please unmute. Please unmute yourself. Sir, please unmute. Please unmute. We can't hear you. Huh? Sir, please unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Today, indeed, education pe charcha stands blessed, because His Holiness Swami Atampriyanand ji Maharaj ji, who happens to be the Pro-Chancellor of that of Swami Vivekananda University, is gracing and blessing education pe charcha. Indeed, we have no words to express our deep sense of ecstasy and euphoria to explain our, our gratitude to His Holiness, because His Holiness has bothered to give us his invaluable time for educating the nation, in as much as today the contemporary times, India and across the world around is passing through some sort of catastrophe, a very near apocalypse. And therefore, the teachings, immortal teachings of Swami Vivekananda becomes the sine qua non for enlightening humanity, which seems to have gone astray today. And that is why we thought at Education Pe Charcha, it becomes absolutely imperative to host a global authority on Swami Vivekananda, and therefore His Holiness happens to be a global authority to speak on Swami Vivekananda. You all would be surprised, a nuclear physicist, along with that of Vedanta, a Vedanta philosopher, His Holiness today is blessing education pe charcha. My dear viewers, before this question answer session starts, just once a single line I would like to say. We have had the privilege of hosting a Supreme Court renowned lawyer to discuss on great Adi Shankaracharya, another can say the raison d'etre and summum bonum of Bharat Varsha, the great monist. And today we again have the same degree of pleasure and privilege to host His Holiness Swami Atampriyanand ji, Sri Maharaj, for discussing on Swami Vivekananda. That is, the great Swami indeed had today a question struck me, and definitely I would like to just say that what was the question in my mind, that had there been no Swami Vivekananda in such a hostile times, when Macaulay, that is Thomas Babington Macaulay, had already institutionalized the historic perfidy on the nation of institutionalizing anglicized system of education. Hindus were absolutely demoralized. Had Sanatana Dharma existed, if Swami Vivekananda were not there, that was the crucial question which knocked at my door. And therefore, we have the best person today to discuss on Swami Vivekananda. Sir, Your Holiness, Swami Sri Atampriyanand Ji Maharaj of the Pro-Chancellor of Swami Vivekananda University. Sir, we very much welcome you on our platform of Education Pe Charcha. With this very first question, it goes to you, sir. Sir, you did your PhD in nuclear physics and then took to Vedanta philosophy in the wake of embracing monkhood of Ramakrishna Mission. What sort of co-relationship purportedly exists between science and Vedanta philosophy, which so much fascinated you to embrace monkhood? Your say on this, please, sir. We welcome His Holiness Swami Sri Atampriyanand Ji Maharaj. Sir, your take now.
I was always attracted to physics, particularly the abstract kind of physics called the theoretical physics, which deals with particles and fields. It's called high energy physics. And particularly the quantum theory, quantum mechanics, quantum field theory, and the theory of relativity. All of you know, these are two extraordinary, revolutionary theories of the 20th century. 1900 was Max Planck, who talked about the quanta. From there, quantum theory started. 1905, Albert Einstein came out with his special theory of relativity, and he followed in 1915 by the general theory of relativity, the theory of gravitation. These two theories completely revolutionized our thought regarding the external world. The world is not any longer as it appears to be, which is exactly what Vedanta says. And I was so fascinated by these two theories. I studied in some detail. For my MSc, I had nuclear physics as a special paper, which I excelled. And for my PhD, I did in theoretical particle physics and elementary particle theory. Now, if you study any subject deeply, profoundly, and with passion, and absorb what you study, not only as an academic subject, but into your soul, yourself, and your own, integrate with your own life, your whole view of this universe and yourself completely changes. Vedanta has taught us that the world which we see is not exactly what it appears to be. And the world is real in the sense that you experience it. And it's not so real because it's constantly appearing to be something other than what it is. There's a fascinating combination of the reality and unreality, the mixture of Sat and Asat, neither this nor that, which is spoken of by Nagarjuna in the Buddhistic tradition. We had a Buddha Jayanti yesterday as Chatushkoti Vinirmukta, is neither Satkoti, nor Asatkoti, nor Sadasatkoti, nor was it Anupalabhya Koti. It is neither, you can say it exists, nor can you say it does not exist, and you cannot say it exists and not exists, and you cannot say it exists and not exists. So this is absolutely fascinating, and I was very much drawn to this, to Swami Vivekananda's ideas. If anyone carefully reads the Jnana Yoga lectures of Swami Vivekananda, it describes Maya as a curious combination of existence and non-existence. And it is not unreal because we live in it. It is not totally real because ultimately it is unreal. So this kind of idea, which is very close to science, and all of you know perhaps that the Nobel Prize for this year's 2022 Nobel Prize went to scientists who actually proved that this world is not as real as we take it to be, which comes very close to Vedanta. And if you integrate the ideas of Vedanta and physics into your own life, your whole outlook changes. What we call the world view, or in German as Weltanschauung. The Weltanschauung completely changes and your life takes a new turn. And added to that, the idea of karuna, compassion, the idea of priti, maitri, friendship, union with everybody, which Buddha spoke about, the Swami Vivekananda took up this time and he said, you worship the entire universe, all its beings, the manifestation of the one divine, oneness of existence, and the divinity of man, two great doctrines of Vedanta, which Swami Vivekananda not only taught, practiced, and gave it as a universal message for everybody to practice. He said, dry, abstract Advaita should become living, practical in everyday life. That was the fascination which drew me to Swami Vivekananda's ideals of Vedanta, based upon by two great heroes, Max Planck, Schrödinger, Heisenberg, and Albert Einstein.
Great, sir. Thanks a lot, Your Holiness. My dear viewers, when His Holiness was trying to explicate on the very reasons and rationale behind his taking to monkhood, behind his taking to Vedanta philosophy, and a sort of an incident which readily struck me was that of Swami Vivekananda when he went to the United States of America to deliver his historic speech in that of the World Parliament of Religions. A scientist would state, would visit him every day. And one day a journalist asked him, sir, this monk is talking about Vedanta philosophy, whereas you are a scientist. So what fascinates you to come every day to listen to what this monk speaks? The scientist said, oh my God, when I see this monk speaking about Vedanta philosophy, I find some sort of intimate connection or relationship between that of science as well as Vedanta philosophy. Sir, you have absolutely, means very candidly, you threw adequate light, on the sort of symmetry between that of Vedanta philosophy and of course the science, because you are an authority on science too. Being a nuclear physicist, if you have taken to Vedanta, to espousing and championing Vedanta philosophy, it speaks a volume about the interconnectivity or the co-relationship which exists between that of Vedanta and physics. Thanks a lot, sir. I'm straightway coming to the next question, sir. Sir, how would you evaluate the role of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in shaping the life of Naren as the future Swami Vivekananda? Your take on this, please, sir.
See, Swami Vivekananda was Narendranath, as you know, and he was deeply religious since childhood. Religious in the sense that he was inquiring. As a scientist would, you have to inquire into the reality to know the truth. Any person who says, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in religion, is not a scientist. You neither believe nor disbelieve, you inquire. Vedanta therefore says, philosophy and religion begins with inquiry. It's called jigyasa, desire to know through inquiry. So this is the difference in yoga and Vedanta. Yoga talks about anushasanam, protocol. Atha yoga anushasanam. The first sutra of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. The first sutra of the Vedanta Sutras, called the Brahma Sutras, is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, therefore, begins the inquiry into Brahma. Inquiry means it's an open-ended search. You don't take anything for granted. You don't presuppose anything. You're not prejudiced or biased this way or that way. You simply say, I will inquire into this. I will inquire into what? I'll inquire into life and existence. How do we exist? Where do we come from? Where do we ultimately go? What is the purpose of human life? King Karanam. What is the Karana? What is the cause? Utasmajata, from where we arise and to where we are going. Shvetashvatara Upanishad begins with this line. And the Upanishad, the Rishis, were some of the great spiritual scientists, as I would call them. They were just inquiring into our daily experience. See, Vedanta, just like science, is not a philosophy or religion or metaphysics. It is just a plain inquiry into our life and existence. You ask certain simple questions about our existence. Why we are, what we are. The Kenopanishad, for example, begins by asking, how is it that the eyes see, the ears hear, the tongue tastes, and the mind is able to think? Is it the mind which thinks or something behind the mind? Is it the eyes which see, something behind the eyes? Is it the ears that hear, something behind the ears? Is the mind which thinks or something behind the mind? There is some power. Who projects them? Who impels them? Who inspires the senses to think, to taste, to see, to hear? Keneshitam padati preshitam manah, kena prana prasava priti yukta, keneshitam vachamimam vadanti, akshusrotram kavudevo yunakti. Then they discovered that the eyes that see, the ear that hears, or the mind that thinks. Behind the mind, there's a mind of the mind, there's the ear of the ear, there's the eye of the eye, which is the supreme consciousness which impels them to see. They discovered the inner consciousness. Shrotram manaso manoyat acho havacham savu pranasya pranaha chakshushas chakshudatimuttadiraha pretyasman lokad amrita bhavanti. Naren was inquiring. He was restless to find out the truth. He went to so many people of those times, including the great saint, the noble father of Rabindranath Tagore, Devendranath Tagore. He went to him, sir, have you seen God? He wanted direct perception, not theories, not stories, not philosophy. You want direct experience. Just like I'm seeing you, I'm talking to you, can you see God directly face to face? He did not get the answer until he went through the inspiration of Professor Hastie, who was teaching him the Wordsworth poem in Scottish Church College, an excursion. There's a word there called trance, samadhi. So the students were not able to understand the meaning. Then Professor Hastie said, if you want to know this, go to Dakshineshwar. There's one Paramahamsa Ramakrishna there. He often goes into ecstasy and samadhi. So Naren went, asked straight, simple, direct question. You see, philosophy and religion and metaphysics and all these are not mere theories, but direct questioning into the reality, to experience the reality. Just like I put a sweet meat in my tongue and I taste sweetness, just like I hear some beautiful music and my ear immediately recognizes the beauty of the music, just like I see a beautiful sight and my eyes recognize it, can you directly, tangibly see God, experience Him? Sri Ramakrishna said, I have seen Him just like I'm seeing you, but only much more powerfully and much more intensely. And he added, and I can show Him to you, but who wants to see God? People are so busy with the worldly things. People shed jugfuls of tears for their wife and children and money and wealth. But who wants to see God? Anybody who longs with the deepest yearning and earnestness to see God will be able to see. Naren was completely struck. Here is a person who says, claims, not only that he has seen, and goes beyond that claim and says, I can show Him to you. Once again, the reflection in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where Yajnavalkya, the great sage, is challenged in the great Sabha, the conference which was called by King Janaka, can you show God, Brahman, just like I take hold of the horns of a bull or a cow and say, here is a bull, here is a cow. Can you experience God? Or Shakshad, Aparokshad Brahman. Sakshad directly, Aparokshad without the medium of the senses. Immediate and direct perception of God is impossible. Narayana was simply, completely overwhelmed. The conviction which this Ramakrishna spoke, because he spoke from the depth of his own experience, and that drew him to Sri Ramakrishna. And the rest is story, how Ramakrishna trained him in various kinds of sadhana, ultimately ending in the Advaita sadhana through the teaching of Ashtavakra Samhita. Narayan was a part of Brahma Samaj. He always used to think of us as a small, despicable, insignificant creature. A beautiful song the Brahmas used to sing. Tumi Tribhuvana Ami Hari Yamone Bolibo Tuma Esho Mama Hridaye. You increase again. Only volume. Hello. Tumi Tribhuvananath. It means
Yes, please.
Tumi Tribhuvananath. Ami Vikariyana. Kemone bolibo tomai. Esho mama. You are the Lord of the three worlds, the Parameshwara, and I am a despicable, destitute, lying in the street, uncared for. How can I ask you, O Lord, come and sit in my heart? That Narendranath, later on in the world, the pulpit said, Buddhas and Christ were the waves of the infinite ocean of consciousness, which I am. The Advaita Anubhuti, through which he could embrace the whole world in one warm hug of universal love, which is the same as jnana. That is the transformation from Narendranath to Vivekananda.
Great, sir. Great. My dear viewers, when His Holiness, with all such a versatility that he epitomizes, was talking about the vastness of experience that the great saint, immortal saint, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had imparted to that of Swami Vivekananda, that of Naren in his childhood days. I just recalled how the debate between Mandar Misra and great Adi Sankaracharya, because when Mandar Misra was mocking at great Sankara's concept of non-dualism, that is a monism, then Sankaracharya had said to him that Brahma is beyond that of mind, intellect, and all that. And then it is, Brahman is a transcendental phenomenon. And then it struck Mandar Misra was in fact gobsmacked to hear about the revelation of the very conceptualization of Brahma coming all the way from great monist. And when His Holiness had described the aesthetic experience of that of Swami Vivekananda, more or less it just it came knocking at my door, the very similarity of that of the revelation made to Mandar Misra by that of great Adi Sankaracharya. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Coming to the next question, sir. Sir, as a wandering monk for almost a decade, Swami Vivekananda had sought to discover India in its pristine glory. What, according to you, were the major realization of Swami Vivekananda as the wandering monk? Your take on this, please, sir.
Swami Vivekananda, as you know, wandered through India for nearly 6 years. You should remember, even before he ventured into wandering and discovering India, Bharatvarsha, he had had the highest experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi at Dakshineshwar at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. He had already. He was fully established in the.
Some voice is
Alright.
coming. Voice is coming. Please.
He was fully established.
Pramodji, some voice is coming from background. Pramodji, please. Sir, please. Sir, continue.
He was fully
Please continue. Please continue.
Okay, please. Sir.
He was established in the Advaita Anubhuti, the supreme consciousness of oneness of Advaita. And after that, a remarkable statement made by Sri Ramakrishna completely opened a new vista of vision for him. What was that? Sri Ramakrishna said, how can you show compassion to jivas? Jive daya is the doctrine of the Vaishnavas which was spoken about. Sri Ramakrishna went into deep ecstasy and said, daya, daya, compassion, compassion. How can you show compassion to anybody? You are an ordinary jiva. How can you show compassion? No, it is not compassion. It is not daya. Shiva jnane jiva sheva. It is the seva and not daya. It is the service of jiva, service of all beings, knowing them to be embodiments of the Supreme Shiva. This statement completely changed Swami Vivekananda's vision. And he came out and said, today I heard a statement from Sri Ramakrishna and I'm completely overwhelmed by the statement. If I get the opportunity, I will spread it across the whole world. What is the meaning of that? Shiva Jnana, with the consciousness, with the knowledge that you are actually encountering the Supreme Being when you see anybody or talk to anybody, coming in the guise of a human being. It is God alone who is present before you, but according to your ajnana, because of your ignorance, you are seeing the God to be a man. Swami Vivekananda once said, no doubt I love India, but what is India or America or England or France to us? We are all the children of that one Supreme Being, God, who by the ignorant is called man. He alone is present everywhere, Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam. So with this consciousness, with this anubhuti, he went through India and found that the embodiments of God, the Supreme Being, people are in squalor and poverty and ignorance, and how they can be awakened to their real nature of consciousness through providing them with food and education and accommodation, which are most necessary. We live in the body, and in the mind, we have so many necessities. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, the 5 koshas we talked about. The manifestation of the divinity within, Supreme Divinity, cannot happen unless you have the infrastructure of the body and the mind well prepared. He shed tears of sorrow seeing the poverty and squalor of India and said their situation has to be raised. They have enough of religion and spirituality, which is their very bones. Is a religion and spirituality at the backbone of India. And you strengthen us in these channels. Renunciation and service are the 2 great ideals of India. Intensify them in these 2 channels. The rest will take care of themselves. Yaga and Seva and Tapasya. He emphasized that what India needs is the awakening of the spiritual consciousness through the strengthening of the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya. Through that, the manifestation will take place. That's why he wrote one letter. I preach nothing but awake, 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 awake. Arise and awake. Stop not till the goal is reached. Uttisthata Jagrata. In the Kathopanishad said, what we need to awaken, because now deeply asleep. The beautiful statement which he made about India. My brethren, work hard. This is no time for sleep. On our work depends on the coming of the India of the future. She is there, ready, waiting. She's only sleeping. Arise and awake and see her seated on the eternal throne, rejuvenated, more glorious than she ever was, this great motherland of ours.
Great, great, sir, great, sir. My dear viewers, when Swamiji speaks, we all are rendered speechless. We all stand gobsmacked by the sort of the highest quality of erudition that His Holiness, so seamlessly, showcases. My dear viewers, what great Swamiji says that, Swami Vivekananda had emphasized on this particular fact, Jive Prem Sivebas, Jive Prem Kore Jon, Sei Biche Sod. That is what His Holiness was trying to emphasize upon. And I do recall, as what Swamiji had just now said, the spirituality, focusing and, prima facie emphasizing on spirituality. Great Swami had tried to expound this particular fact that India's soul reside in Sri Ram. Because Sri Ram is the sole force of Bharat Barsha, was the clarion call of Swami Vivekananda. And that is what Swamiji was trying to emphasize upon. So I'm just straightway coming to the next question. The Swami Vivekananda had famously said, Vedantic mind and Islamic body shall constitute Bharat Barsha. How would you interpret the aforesaid statement in the light of contemporary scenario when one community has come to look upon the other with suspicion and mutual distrust? Your take on this, please.
See, the present situation is only made up and cooked up because of so many factors. See, now, Swami Vivekananda, when he said Vedanta, brain and Islamic body, what he meant was the fundamental strength of Islam that, Swami already mentioned this, anybody taking to Islam is considered equal to even the king of the Islamic state. The equality and brotherhood of Islam, he was very much charmed by this. So he said, in India, so much of high and low caste and high caste. What spoiled Hinduism, spoiling even now, is casteism. That's why how many lakhs of people Ambedkar converted to Buddhism, because there's no caste. Swamiji said, remove caste from Hindu religion and you have one of the grandest of religions in the world. The highest thoughts of Advaita, but they have not percolated to the masses. We have made them ignorant. And he's quietly blamed for that the priestcraft. The priests and the prophets were always at loggerheads. He said, the whole history of religion is the tussle or the conflict between the priests on the one hand and prophets on the other. Priests wanted to monopolize. They will not give it to anybody. They made Sanskrit the only language and the only language God can understand. Just like the modern interpretation, if we can say, the software engineers in computer science. They will say, you cannot understand the language of the computer, you do not know. We know. You give us hefty money, we will tell the computer what to do in the computer's language. Exactly the same way the priest said, God understands Sanskrit alone, Deva Bhasha, you do not know Sanskrit, you give us money and we will translate it to God. So they completely wanted to monopolize knowledge, and the Shudras and women will not have Vedic education. That was a big revolt. Now the revolt which you're seeing in the present day society was again that atrocity which was perpetrated by the egoistic and extremely arrogant Brahmins who moved away from the real Brahmanism and started to monopolize knowledge. It happens everywhere, not only in all fields of knowledge, even in science. Even in science, some people want to monopolize knowledge, and some scientists intelligently take others' work and pass on. So the Marconi, for example, famous example. Our Jagadish Chandra Bose was such a genius and such a saintly soul, innocent soul, he didn't care. He said, knowledge is for everybody. There cannot be any IPR, intellectual property rights. What is intellectual? Sri Krishna did not have copyright to the Bhagavad Gita. Valmiki did not copyright Ramayana. Vyasa did not copyright Mahabharata. In India, knowledge is free and open. Now, later on, even in science, how Marconi literally stole away the conference, the papers of Jagadish Chandra Bose. He got the Nobel Prize, got all the credit. But Jagadish Chandra just did not care. So what Swami Vivekananda said, revive Hinduism through the Vedantic idea of the Upanishads. And everybody should be free. Just like Buddha, he opened up the spirituality of the women, the so-called Shudras, there should not be any inequality as far as society is concerned. And he admired the brotherhood of Islam. Therefore, he said the Vedantic brain, in which the highest flights of Advaita are talked about, along with society, there is tremendous equality in society. He meant the equality aspect of Islam. The community fighting itself is all made up. See, when people want to use this enmity for some various purposes, it becomes a problem. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. The Muslims and Hindus were together. How many disciples? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kabir Das is a great example. And even Swami Vivekananda, even Sri Ramakrishna, there's a story. Sri Ramakrishna is going by a horse carriage. And a Muslim fakir, a great saintly soul, he was praying, "Oh, my Priyatama, my dearest Lord, please come to me." Sri Ramakrishna could not resist himself. He got up and went and embraced. "Here I have come." He is the avatar. The Buddha did it. All this inequality and religion fighting against religion is all made up by the crooked human mind. Swami Vivekananda said, if the Advaitic idea enters the human brain, to Vedanta brain, then the idea of equality will be established, brotherhood, harmony, peace will be restored.
Thanks a lot, sir. My dear viewers, here I recall when indeed what our great Swamiji, our revered Swamiji had just now expounded, had just now articulated from this august platform of Education Pe Charcha, and stands corroborated by the statements, or you can say by the critical comments of that of Brahmin class. When Swami Vivekananda landed here in India, Brahmin class questioned his locus standi. They said that who gave you the right to champion Hinduism there in United States of America, in the world part, the Parliament of World Religions? Swamiji promptly said, "I trace my descent to that Almighty Lord at whose feet thousands of Brahmins offered their flowers." Absolutely in agreement with you, sir. Equality or egalitarianism, the principles of egalitarianism was established by Buddha, followed by great Adi Shankaracharya, of course restored by Swami Vivekananda in such fragile times as India was negotiating with all sorts of crises engulfing the society from all around. Thank you, sir. Straightway come to the next question, sir. Vivekananda Rock Memorial, the national monument of historical relevance, which Sri Eknath Ranade had built up with so much hardship, facing Himalayan roadblocks. What is your opinion about the significance of Vivekananda Rock Memorial in the national regeneration, especially in the context of Swami Vivekananda seeking guidance from his Guru Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa for going to Chicago to participate in the Parliament of World Religions way back in 1893? Your take on this, please, sir.
Like Buddha, here is one God-man, extraordinary saint, who meditated not on God, but on India and the problems of India, the last rock of the Indian land. Sitting on the last bit of the Indian soil on that rock, a great vision opened up to him. He was not meditating on God. Buddha did not renounce the world to seek God, but to seek how the misery of the world can be removed. That is a great heart. He said, vision after vision came to him in the 3 days when he meditated. He was meditating on India, Bharat Varsha, Bharat Mata, and not on God per se. He saw the great glory of India, the eternal glory of the rishis, thousands of years of great legacy, where people meditated upon the Supreme Being, went deep into the mystery of this universe, discovered enormous truths, which was the legacy of the whole race. Hundreds of thousands of people giving up everything, all the enjoyments of the world, constantly meditating and discovering the great truths. Kings renounced their thrones. Intellectual people renounce everything for the sake of discovering the ultimate reality, which they called Brahman. He saw the glory, thousands of years of glory, one by one. It came to him, the famous letter which he wrote to Madras disciples in response to the address which it was given to him. He traces out one by one, and he saw the present decadence, the past glory and the present decadence, and the kind of onslaught which the British gave us, and then the Muslim rulers, one by one, so much of onslaught on us. And the beauty of the Hindu religion, it never reacted adversely, but absorbed the whole. Hindu religion, in a sense, the most dangerous religion because it doesn't fight, it does not quarrel, and it does not pick up any enmity. It quietly absorbs. Buddha came and threw away the Vedas. He said that the Vedas teach such a doctrine, throw away the Vedas. It was the Avaidika religion which he preached, heterodox Nastika religion. What did Hindu religion do? It simply smiled and took Buddha and then swallowed him as a part of Hindu avatar sect. He is part of the Dashavatara. That's the beauty of Hinduism. Because the Hinduism is so large, so vast, in Swami Vivekananda's words, deeper than the ocean and vaster than the skies. That is the Hindu religion. So it has place for everybody. So for some time the society was upset. Lord Macaulay, as you know, wanted to brainwash the whole of India through an education policy in which he said in his own statement, I will teach these colonial people, the Indians, give them such an education by which from outside they'll look like Indians. Inwardly, they'll be thoroughly and completely anglicized. I want good clerks. The capital of the British regime at that time was Calcutta. Even now, the Secretariat of Calcutta, the government, bears the name Writers' Buildings. He wanted to make good clerks of India, try to brainwash them. 1835 was the proclamation which he made about Indian education policy in the British Parliament. 1836, like Sri Krishna was born in the Kamsa's Karagara, the jail, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was born in Kamarpukur, in a remote village in Bengal, as a revolt against Macaulay, as it were. And he picked up his best disciples from among those who were the English educated, were educated in Macaulay's way. So look at the beauty and look at the paradox. He completely ignored and completely neglected Macaulay's education, picked up Swami Vivekananda, Brahmananda, Sharadananda, Ramakrishnananda, so many from among those who were English educated, and produced a beautiful samanvaya, harmony of the East and the West, which Vivekananda preached all his life. East and the West should be combined. This was the idea, and he always said, don't hate. Last words of Swami Vivekananda in the Parliament of Religions, 17th September 1893, his last lecture, upon the banner of every religion will soon be written, in spite of resistance, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension. Swamiji was particular that Hindu religion has the capacity to be embraced, absorb, and in a sense completely swallow all religious faiths. The Mandvika Karika says that the Advaita is looking on all the dualistic people who have peculiar views about the reality. They go on quarreling. My view is right, your view is right. And the Advaita is looking on. They are fighting, they conflict among themselves. But I am Advaita, it is a conflict with anybody. It is all-inclusive, all-absorbing, and profounder than the ocean and broader than the skies.
Great, sir. Great. My dear viewers, as our revered Swamiji was trying to explicate on this very important concept, it just readily struck me, Sri Lal Krishna Advaniji, one of the greatest living politician of the country today, I perceive his autobiography, My Country, My Life, has very candidly, it very candidly incorporates the incident of Sri Eknath Ranade when he conceived the idea of building up the Swami Vivekananda Rock Memorial. He went to every door, knocking at every door. Even the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, donated from her coffers, from her personal source. Even Jyoti Basu and Kamla Basu, his wife, donated. But Eknath Ranade writes, when he went to Nambudripad, he was the Chief Minister of Kerala. Nambudripad heard Ranade in stony silence and did not contribute a single penny for such an altruistic cause. From that day onward, I developed a lot of aversion for Nambudripad. Well, before that, I had a huge respect for that man. But the moment I came across this fact that he didn't heard Ranade Sahab very patiently, but did not contribute a single penny for such an altruistic cause, I thought the communism, my dear viewers, see what sort of antithetical mindset these communist people or communism has towards the glorious Hinduism. Or otherwise, tell me, how could any Indian who considers himself or herself to be an Indian, refuses to contribute a single penny for such a noble cause as that of creating the historic monument, where, as per the version of our august guest, great Swami Vivekananda meditated for 3 days and 3 nights upon the past, present and future of that of Bharat Varsha. Thank you, sir. We take your discourse with our head bowed down, because it's a erudition, highest level of erudition, sir, which you are epitomizing. I am sure the viewers will, derive the oceanic benefits out of every single word that your holiness is speaking for the good of humanity, not Bharat Varsha, good of humanity. That is what for great Swami Vivekananda stood. Sir, I am straightway coming to the next question, because time is also a factor. Sir, while in Boston, just one incident before a background, sir. Just, my dear viewers, when Swami Vivekananda reached Chicago, he was informed that still some months were to go before finally the Parliament of all religions would be held. So he went to Boston, where, because it was a cheaper city vis-a-vis that of Chicago. So there one day he exhausted all the money, and finally when he sat in the park, he was driven out from there. So he went on knocking at the house of every single elite, but there he was turned down. Finally, resigned to his fate, he said to Almighty, "Oh my Lord, I have none here to look for, to cater to." And then finally an elegant lady emerged and said, "Swami, you have come to participate in the World Parliament of Religions." Swamiji said, "Yes." She said, "Okay, please come inside." This was the background before I come with this question to His Holiness. So this is the question. While in Boston, Swami Vivekananda had a famous discussion with Professor Wright of Harvard University, especially on Vedanta philosophy and the concept of zero. Sir, because it's not available in books, our viewers would have a lot of knowledge on this. If you could kindly enlighten our viewers on the nature of intellectual conversation between great Swami Vivekananda and the Professor Wright, especially with reference to zero, and how zero of Upanishad can be differentiated from the void of Buddhism. Please, sir, your take on this.
I didn't get you. What is geo?
Sir, zero from Upanishadic perception and void, the concept of void of Buddhism. Please, sir, the reconciliation between the two. Please, sir.
Mr. Jha, I have a request to you. Don't please bring the politics into this discussion.
So, okay.
I'm absolutely against this. I lodge my unhappiness because we are talking about sublime things. Why do you bring a petty politics into this? Who you like, who you don't like? Please do not politicize the issue. Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission will have nothing to do with politics. Then he said, God and the only politics, rest is only trash. So,
Yes, sir.
you belong to the Ramakrishna mission, don't want to be dubbed as this or that in the political field. Please don't do that. Now, as was beautifully told just now by Mr. Jha, Swami Vivekananda has lost his credentials. He was a nobody there. And the last date for entry into the parliament is already over. Then Mrs. Hale, the great woman who played a crucial role in Swami Vivekananda's life, but for whom we would not got the Vivekananda as a great universal figure, which he became later on. She took him to John Henry Wright, the professor of Harvard University in Greek. And we do not exactly know what was being talked about. But at the end of the conversation, Professor Wright wrote just 2 sentences in a piece of paper. Just 2 sentences. It's very remarkable. He said, to ask this young man for credentials, he is like asking the sun what light he has to shine. Look at this statement. This is one of the greatest assessments made of Swami Vivekananda by anybody except Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, his divine guru. How could John Henry Wright evaluate, assess Swami Vivekananda in just half hour? Speaking to him, to ask this young man for credentials, to ask the sun what light he has got to shine. Second sentence, he is more learned than all our professors put together. Remember, he's talking about Harvard University of those times. So he must have struck the extraordinary genius, not only spiritual power, but intellectual power. The power of assimilation of the East and the West. Remember, Swami Vivekananda was extremely well read in Western philosophy also. As a teenager, he completely mastered the Western philosophical systems, like Shankaracharya of his times. Shankaracharya, in 8 years, he mastered all the Shastras of his times. So similarly, Swami Vivekananda knew the Western, Eastern thought and philosophy. And what exactly transpired between them is not known, but the zero and infinity thing is always moving around. Swami Vivekananda is supposed to have talked on zero, etc. Many people say. We don't have any authentic information that he really spoke. But the idea of zero, which is the shunyata of Nagarjuna, is not void per se. What happened was, people thought that there is a soul, permanent soul called the Atman. The Upanishads taught it. And based on that, people built up their lives. Buddha came and said, have you seen the Atman? Have you realized the Brahman? No. But come to the immediate, don't go to the ultimate. Immediately what you see is dukkha. You see sorrow. Find out what is the cause of this sorrow, how you can get out of this. And he meditated at the Bodhi tree, as you know, and he discovered 4 noble truths. Dukkha, sorrow is a reality, and there's a cause for this sorrow, the hetu, dukkha hetu, and there's a way to overcome this sorrow, upaya, and the upaya is the eightfold path method which he said. Then he delved deep into himself and saw there's a stream of continuous consciousness called Kshanika Vijnana. Every moment, this particular moment is dependent just on the previous moment, which exhausts its character and efficiency in the next moment, that dies. Every moment it arises and it dies, transmitting the entire efficiency and character to the next moment. So from moment to moment to moment to moment, the consciousness flows like a stream. This you think is the eternal. There is nothing called eternality. So he emphasized change and taking it forward. Nagarjuna, much later, 500 years later, said there are 4 things which you can think of, categorize in knowledge. Either you say asti, sat koti, it is there. Asat koti, it is not there. Sadasat koti, it is there and not there. Existence and non-existence. or anupalabhya koti, that it is there, it is existence, nor is it not non-existence. It is non-existence, existence, not non-existence. It cannot be any of these. If you neglect, if you completely ignore and set aside all the four qualities, what remains, he says, there is nothing individual character, swabhava of any knowledge. He said it beautifully. Suppose later on they give examples. Think of anything in this universe. Suppose think of a piece of paper. This paper, what is the swabhava of a paper? The paperness is the swabhava of a paper. Now, what does the paper consist of? The paper is here because somebody put it here, because somebody manufactured somewhere. Manufacturing was done by cutting a tree. Somebody planted the tree. So before that was a seed. If you go on and on and on, 100,000 causes go into the making of this paper. And therefore, this paper itself does not have any paperness in it, except that it is completely dependent upon 100,000 innumerable factor for its existence as a paper. So it's called niswabhavatva. This niswabhavatva is called shunya. It is empty of its own thing. Now, this is dependence. Now, this leads to an interesting concept called interconnectedness, which is very important for the modern world. We are now talking to you through the internet. We are all connected in this sense. So interconnectedness will tell you this paper, in a sense, has no swabhava of its own, this swabhava, shunya. But another sense, if you look at it, this paper is everything. It is connected to the entire universe. So it is universal purna, and it is also shunya. So what we call purna, infinite, Shankara Advaita Vedanta talks about, is the same as the shunya which Nagarjuna talked about, only terminologies are different. And it can be mathematically proved that shunya and purna, zero and infinity are the same thing. Swami Ramakrishnananda, who was a mathematician, disciple of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, proved it by a very simple concept of trigonometry and physics, which I am not going to now. So what is...
Please.
Can I go into the trigonometry and physics?
But my dear viewers, what our honored guest has just now has been trying to say is absolutely, it is a very, very higher principle of thought. Because even Isabaku Upanishad says, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnata Purnam Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Basisate, talks about the absolute Brahma, his overall capacity to produce or to procreate this particular universe. Indeed, sir, you have explained in such simplest of terms the very complex philosophical doctrine that is really comprehensible to our guests, to our esteemed viewers. Thanks a lot, sir. Revered Swamiji, since time is running out, we have 2-3 more questions, but unfortunately, time is running out. We have to accommodate last question. It is a very, very great question. My dear viewers, Sri Nani Palkiwala, India's greatest constitutional jurist, writes in We the People, dubbing Sri Aurobindo as the greatest India's mind in post-independence era. And Sri Aurobindo talks about Swami Vivekananda as, he says, Swami Vivekananda was the collective consciousness of Bharat Barsha. Revered Swamiji, how do you interpret this quotation of great Sri Aurobindo in the light of contemporary times? Your take on this, sir.
See, Carl Jung was a great psychologist, as you know. Carl Jung was a disciple of Sigmund Freud, and he broke away from Freud at a particular point of time for various reasons. Carl Jung introduced a concept of collective unconscious. Every one of us has an individual unconscious, which contains all the various samskaras and thoughts and emotions and feelings and ideas which have gone deep into us, and they manifest sometimes in dreams, and they manifest in your day-to-day affairs without our knowledge to steer us through life. So you say similarly, the entire nation has a collective unconscious, in which all the aspirations, all the ideas, all the great thoughts which has been cultivated in India of 1,000 millennia upon millennia, all of them are stored there deeply. Once you touch that, the entire nation awakens as one man. And that, Swami Vivekananda said, is spirituality and religion. And thinking of God, thinking of higher principles. The life is not merely eating and drinking and what he calls eating and drinking and society nonsense. You go on doing all this, ultimately you are not satisfied. The only satisfaction, real tushti that you will get is when you are deeply absorbed in your own higher self called the Atman, which Advaita Vedanta proclaims is identical with the Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, etc. Now, this collective unconscious of the whole nation, in which all the archetypal images of the avatar, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, all of them are there in this collective unconscious, which is why the moment you utter word the Rama and Krishna, the whole nation arises as one man. Because deep inside the collective unconscious is awakened and aroused. Swami Vivekananda therefore said, this has to be aroused. And he himself was a personification of the unconscious of the nation, or consciousness of the nation. The collective consciousness of the nation is personified, as Romero wrote beautifully about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa by saying, the image of the man I here evoke is the consummation of 2,000 years of spiritual life, of 2 million years of spiritual life of 300 million people. At that time, 300 million. Now we have 1,400 million people. So he is the consummation of the religious and spiritual life of all that India represents. So Swami Vivekananda called himself as miniature India, condensed India. So the entire life of the whole nation for millennia, that got condensed as the personality of Sri Ramakrishna, who transmitted his entire energy, strength, power, wisdom, and spiritual consciousness to Swami Vivekananda by a mere touch. And he said, I have given you everything. Now I have become a fakir and a beggar. Through this power, you will conquer the world spiritually. India has to conquer the world, Swami Vivekananda said, but not through any military power or intellectual power, to the power of the spirit, to the power of... This is the consciousness of India. And Romero again talked about Swami Vivekananda so beautifully. Swami Vivekananda, he says, he represents the harmony of all human energy. In the two words, equilibrium and synthesis, the entire genius of Swami Vivekananda may be summed up.
Great. So, I very respectfully prostrate at the lotus feet of His Holiness Swami Sri Atampriyanand Ji Maharaj Ji. Sir, it will be an immense pleasure and privilege, divine privilege for me to come to Belur next time and prostrate at your lotus feet. Sir, I have no words to express our deepest appreciation and the sort of bliss that we have experienced by your conspicuous presence to grace Education Pe Charcha, to educate the nation about the collective consciousness of Bharat Varsha. That was great, Swami Vivekananda. My dear viewers, before I invite Sri Pramodji to sum up very quickly about such an electrifying interaction with the supreme, I would say, without an ounce of exaggeration, the supreme authority, global authority to speak on Swami Vivekananda, His Holiness, revered Swami Atampriyanand Ji Maharaj. To sum up in Hindi, I invite Pramodji. Before that, I just make an announcement. My dear viewers, next Saturday on 13th, we have Sri Nilendra Kumar Ji, the Major General, to speak on great Sri Naniye Palkiwala at the same time at 7 p.m. Now I invite Sri Pramodji to speak on today's very, very electrifying discussion, where His Holiness had electrified today's show as never before. Pramodji, please. Adarniya Pramodji. प्रमोद जी, हेलो प्रमोद जी, प्रमोद जी, प्रमोद जी, हेलो।
नमस्कार।
हाँ प्लीज।
स्वामी आत्मप्रियानंद जी को मेरा सादर प्रणाम। आदरणीय श्री विवेकानंद जी को सादर प्रणाम। ज्ञान के इस अप्रीतम गंगा में जितनी श्रोताओं ने डुबकी लगाई है, मैं समझता हूं कि ये अविस्मरणीय क्षण है। हमें यह जानकर बहुत ही प्रसन्नता हुई कि संसार में भारत ही एक ऐसा राष्ट्र है जिसने भगवत्ता के संपूर्ण सिद्धांत सूत्र को न केवल सिद्ध किया, बल्कि समय समय पर उसे परिमार्जित किया, प्रदर्शित किया और संपूर्ण संसार के मानव जाति को अनुशीलन करने के लिए प्रेरित किया। हम अति सौभाग्यशाली लोग हैं कि हमारी धरा पर स्वामी विवेकानंद जैसे महान व्यक्तित्व का हमने अपने जीवन के पूर्व के काल में अपने लोगों से सुना और उनके सिद्धांत सूत्रों को लेकर चलने वाले एक महापुरुष का दर्शन किया और उसके विस्तार से संपूर्ण तथ्यों को समझा और जाना। हमारे यहाँ बृहदन अरण्यक्य उपनिषद में बहुत, उपनिषद तो खैर इस पर जितनी विस्तार से बात हो वो कम ही है, लेकिन उसमें ये जो कहता है अस्तो मां सदगमय तमसो मां, ये जो एक तथ्यात्मक चीजें हैं जिसको लेकर के पूरे संसार में छोटी छोटे ध्येय वाक्य में अलग अलग जगहों पर हमारे छात्र जीवन से लेकर के और अब तक पढ़ने को मिलता था, तो एक जिज्ञासा मन में रहती थी कि इसमें क्या है, ये इसके सामान्य अर्थ क्या होते हैं, इसके असामान्य अर्थ क्या होते हैं। और फिर उन्हीं जिज्ञासाओं को शांत करने के लिए कई बार ऐसा आया कि गीता के संपूर्ण पारायण के बाद यह बात समझ में आई कि किस प्रकार से हमारे महापुरुषों ने हमें न केवल के करीब ले जाकर रखा है, बल्कि यह भी संभावनाएं स्थापित करके रखी है कि यदि मानव इस पर विचार करे और इसको प्रयास करे, इसका अनुशीलन करे, अभ्यास करे, तो आने वाले समय में वह इस संसार के लिए एक अद्भुत, अप्रीतम और अथातो जिज्ञासा के सिद्धांत सूत्र को न केवल प्रतिस्थापित कर पाएगा, अपितु उसके जरिए कुछ न कुछ साध्य और साधन का, जिस प्रकार के महाराज जी ने अपने वाणी को प्रारंभ करते हुए योग के अनुशीलन की बात कही थी, वह कर पाएगा। विज्ञान के इस महायुग में हम और आप, जहां एक तरफ आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की चीजों को देख करके पूरी दुनिया भयाक्रांत है और पूरी दुनिया इस पर मंथन में लगी है कि यह आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस इस संसार को कितना खतरा दे जाएगा, उसको संभालने की क्षमता यदि किसी में है तो वह स्वामी जी के सिद्धांत सूत्र में है, अद्वैत वेदांत में है, और जीवन को एक अद्भुत उत्कर्ष पर ले जाने की क्षमता को, मानविकी की चेतना को जागृत करने में है। हमारे जैसे सामान्य लोगों को आत्मप्रियानंद जी जैसे महापुरुषों के समक्ष आपने ये अवसर दिया, और अपने श्रोताओं को ये सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ। इसके लिए मैं विवेकानंद जी का हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं और स्वामी जी के चरणों में सादर प्रणाम करते हुए अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूं।
Thanks. Lord Pramodji, my dear viewers, I have no words today because I just, very respectfully invited His Holiness Swami, revered Swami Sri Atampriyanand Ji Maharaj, and he benignly agreed to be a part and parcel of our unique and spectacular bandwagon of Education Pe Charcha. We are really, we are so glad that we have no words to express our gratitude. My dear viewers, I do express my apology once again, but see, it is the humongous, tragedy of this nation, which anguishes every single citizen of this country, that how the vastness of Hindu religion, was being destroyed like termites from inside by all its stakeholders. I got so much annoyed and anguished to name an individual or a particular, because I found that even such a man who tried to reinvigorate the nation when nation was facing crisis from all sides, if he, the concerned individual did not pay respect to Swami Vivekananda by way of donating a single penny for such an altruistic cause as that of Swami Vivekananda Rock Memorial, my heart rent. I don't know, my feelings of sorrow was indescribable. That was the reason I spoke in a very, I wouldn't say in a pejorative, but nevertheless in an uncharitable way, because that was the expression of my deep angst, which stays with me deep inside my heart, because great Swami Vivekananda was the raison d'etre and summum bonum of that of Bharat Barsha. As I shared with you my perception in the beginning, today only I was thinking that had Swami Vivekananda not been there, just like century ago, had Shivaji Maharaj not been there, a millennium ago, had great Shankaracharya not been there, would we, the Sanatanis, have survived? That is the question mark. And if somebody pays disrespect to Swami Vivekananda, I very respectfully say that my heart rents, and that was the reason behind my caustic observation. So, my dear viewers, once again, bowing at the lotus feet of His Holiness Swami, revered Swami Sri Atampriyanand Ji, for all erudite words that he spoke in today's interaction with me, I am again expressing my deep thanks and sense of gratitude to Sri Pramodji for being a valued partner of the show. Last but not the least, to all my very, very esteemed viewers, I bow down my head to them, because it is because of their patronage, their continued support, we are able to conduct this program with all our zest and all our enthusiasm, because this is to educate the nation. With these words, once again, I bow to His Holiness Swami Atampriyanand Ji Maharaj, and to all my esteemed viewers, and to Sri Pramodji, to all of you, I return to studio again to be back again on next Saturday at the same time. Thank you. Pranam Maharaj, Sri Pranam.
Pranam Maharaj, Sri Maharaj.